One of the biggest questions that I get asked all of the time is how do I get everything done in my author business, juggling multiple brands without losing my mind and without hitting burnout? Now, you may feel like productivity and strategy are buzzwords that people throw around online without actually having much consistency to them, but something that I have learned in my almost 10 years in running businesses, both authorship related and not authorship related, is that you will not get much done if you do not have a plan and a system to back that plan up. I'm an author with multiple pen names, I'm a business owner with multiple brands, and I'm a mom to a 9, 4, and 1-year-old. So I will say it definitely hasn't been easy, but over that amount of time, I've been able to create a workflow and a system that helps me plan and manage everything in my author business and my life without feeling super stressed out. Now, I'm going to outline that entire process for you here in this video. Now, watching this, you may think, oh my gosh, this is a lot of stuff. But spoiler alert, the way that I do my planning and strategizing actually takes things off of my plate, reduces the chance of burnout and overwhelm, which I have definitely faced in my business journey for sure, instead of adding things to your plate. So make sure you stay tuned throughout the entire video because at the end, I'm going to take you behind the scenes to show you my secret weapon in managing my author business day in and day out, from big strategy to daily tasks. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Britt, and if you're new to this channel is all about helping you build a thriving career as an indie fiction author. I talk about everything from productivity to mindset, from book marketing and business management for fiction authors. You can show me some love by hitting that like and subscribe button so that you are notified every time a new video releases, which is once a week, full of authorly goodness just for you. Now, one more thing before I dive into the entire workflow, I did want to let you know that I do have timestamps down in the description of this video, so if you're looking for a specific part or you want to jump ahead and see something that's grabbing your interest, you can do that by clicking the timestamps in the description. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to walk you through my full workflow, and we are going to start at the big picture strategy planning that I do every single year, and we are going to work our way down into how I manage that day to day in my own business. Now, a quick note for those of you who may be wondering, the tools that I'm going to mention inside of this video are the tools that I use for myself and the tools that I recommend for my clients. You're going to see both paper tools and digital tools because I'm what I call a hybrid planner, whereas I like to have a physical planning tool as well as using digital day-to-day to keep track of recurring tasks and all of those things. You'll see as we get further into the tutorials of everything, of how everything kind of fits together, both paper and digital. So there are going to be options for you whether you do prefer to plan on paper and whether you prefer to plan digitally, or if you're like me and you're a hybrid planner. The very first step is making sure that the plans that you are going to be making actually align with where you want your author business to end up and the business plan that you have created for yourself. If you have not created a business plan for your author business, definitely check out the video that you see linked up here. That is going to be video 1 in a 4-part series all about how to create your author business plan for yourself so that you are not wandering your way through in the dark in authorship, and you have a direction and you have that basic guideline to follow as you are doing these yearly plans and as you are setting goals and achieving them to move on to the next level. After you have that business plan created and you know what you want your author business to look like and you know all of the big picture details about what you're doing and where you're heading, it's time to start looking year by year. So every single year, I have what I call an annual strategy session. And this is where I actually begin to lay out what it is that I'm going to do in that given year. So when I'm doing my business plan, that's big picture thinking, right? That's an evergreen document that kind of looks indefinitely into the future. Then we have our annual strategy plan. So this is where I begin to look at just the specific upcoming year. And I do this every single year for the year ahead, usually between the months of November and January. So an annual strategy is the start of that planning process. Once you have your annual strategy in place, all of the other planning pieces fall in line behind behind that annual strategy because it all starts to break down into smaller and smaller pieces. Now, how to actually do that annual strategy session for yourself is a whole different topic for a whole nother video, but let me show you how I actually do this myself. So when I'm doing my annual strategy, what I like to do is I like to use a few different tools at my disposal. The first one is going to be my Thriving Scribes Planner. Now, this is actually my planner that I have published through my business for other fiction authors, and it follows the exact same process that I do every single year in order to do my annual strategy and map my year out, as well as my goals and breaking them down into action steps. But since, like I said, I am a hybrid author and I like to have paper available as a tool to plan on, and I like to see things laid out digitally as well, I actually have another tool that I use alongside my Thriving Scribes Planner. And what I have done is create a digital version of the same process that I do inside of my Thriving Scribes Planner into Notion. Notion is a flexible, all-in-one digital workspace that allows you to write, plan, organize, that allows you to write, plan, organize, that allows you to write, plan, collaborate, and get organized. It allows you to take notes, add tasks, manage projects, and so much more. It is free for personal use and it works across all platforms, so you can use it on a desktop computer, a laptop, or even your mobile phone via the app. Now, a lot of people in my audience kind of know me as the person who is teaching Trello for authors. I have a whole course about that. I used to rave about that a few years ago. But over time, as Trello began to change a little bit and I began to need something a little bit different than what they were offering, I began to search for other options. And that's when I came across the magic of Notion, and I instantly fell head over heels for it because it really is so amazing and it is so flexible in what you can do with it, how you can customize it and make it really work exactly how you need to as an author. So let's take a look on how I do my annual strategy planning inside of my planner. Okay, so here is my Thriving Scribes Planner. You can see that I've added tabs here on the sides just to help me access the months easier. So let's go ahead and talk about that annual planning. There is a complete section in the planner for planning your annual strategy. It starts out here with the big picture vision, where I just answer some questions on what I want my year to look like, what I'm going to be focusing on, what's working and what's not, what projects I'm wanting to pursue. And then what happens is, once I have all of those important questions answered, then I come out here and I list out what kind of my year is going to actually look like. So the planner does guide you through how to actually do this yourself, but you want to add any deadlines, any time off that you're going to be taking, all of those important things that you need to know when it comes to actually planning for your year. And so once I've done that process for myself, I end up something like this, where I like to do color-coded just to make sure that I can see quickly at a glance what projects I'm referring to here, when I'm going to be having time off, when are any big important dates for the year, so that I know as I'm going through my scheduling what I'm going to be working around and what I'm going to be working towards and when. By the way, if you're interested in getting your hands on a planner just like this one, you can do so by going to thrivingscribes.com/planner. This is available both in a digital PDF version as well as available up on Amazon for you to buy the paperback version, just like you've seen here. Now, the workflow that I'm about to show you inside of Notion isn't just the workflow that I use for myself when it comes to doing my plans and my action steps throughout the year, but it's also the same process that I teach my clients and students over at Thriving Scribes in order to help them plan and manage their author business as well. And if you just want to grab this entire workflow, be sure to stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to show you exactly how you can take everything that I'm going to show you right now and get it into your own Notion account as well. Okay, so here I am inside of what I call my author home base inside of Notion. I'm going to take you in here to my CEO dashboard. You can see I've got my calendar here set up. You can see some projects over here done, some important links. But what I want to show you here is my annual strategy. So here it is, my annual strategy. You can see it's laid out very similarly to how I have it laid out in my planner. But you're going to see that I have a section here for my core objectives that I can expand or disband, where I've got my top 3 things that I'm working on for the year. And then I have it broken down. And each row is a quarter. And then I also have it broken down into months. So you see January here, February here, and March. Again, you'll see my 3x3 system. So I've got my 3 objectives for the quarter that I'm working on. I've got my top 3 for each month and what my focuses are going to be. And then under that, I actually have some stats broken down here on different goals that I am working towards that particular month, what my marketing budget is, and things like that. So that's how my annual strategy transfers out over into my Notion account. You can see it's very similar, but I like to have it, like I said, since I'm a hybrid planner, I have it in both places. So no matter where I'm at, whether I'm working from my phone or my computer or I'm in my office, I can have access to this important information that I need to at a glance. All right, so the next step after you have your annual strategy completed is to begin looking at your year through quarters. So I like to plan my actual nitty-gritty plans 3 months at a time. So yes, I have my annual strategy, which is looking at the entire year and the things that I want to get done. But when it comes time to actually creating goals and action plans, I only like to look forward 90 days in the future. So that is 3 months into the future. When I'm doing my quarterly planning, I follow something that I call the Power of 3 method. And the Power of 3 method is how I actually structure my planning. And the Power of 3 is outlined like this. So first we have goals, and then we have projects, and then we have tasks. So goals is made up of different projects, and projects is made up of different tasks. And what I do is I set a top 3 quarterly goals that I'm going to be focusing on for that quarter. I set a top 3 projects that I am pursuing in any given month, and I set a top 3 tasks that I am focusing on every single week. And so that is the planning structure that I use in order to make sure that I'm not stuffing my schedule too full, and that I'm going to be able to balance and really achieve what I need to without stressing myself out too much, right? So the first part of that is planning my quarterly goals. So what I do is I actually start to look at my major goals for the 90 days. What's going to be happening? What are the due dates? What am I working towards? What are the metrics that I'm tracking? All of that good information. Sometimes I have this really long list of all of these different things that I really want to do. So the first step of this is actually to go through and choose what I'm really going to focus on. I have learned that I have to be very strict with myself to not overpile my schedule and try to stuff too many things and too many goals and too many projects into, a month or into a quarter, because I've learned that never ends up great, right? You never end up feeling great. You almost never end up getting all of it done, and it becomes a big dumpster fire, which is not what we want to achieve in our business. So I lay everything out. First, I brained up all of the projects that I want to pursue in the next 90 days, and I kind of go through the process of elimination and decide what are the ones that are really going to get my focus, which ones can be pushed off into the next quarter, or, maybe even the quarter after that, or maybe even next year. If it's not super important, if it doesn't need to get done now, if it really doesn't need to be taking up any of my time, my focus, and my attention, then I allow that to sit there in the possible future one day list. So I start by thinking about the current goals that I'm working towards right now, and then I consider all of the different projects that are going to attribute to achieving that goal. Once I have my goals outlined, I can move on to actually deciding on what are all of the action steps that it's going to take for me to reach that project and to achieve it. After I have a full list of all of the action steps that's going to get me to have that completed project, I can begin to plug in those action steps and those tasks into my calendar each week and each day. So let me show you what that process looks like inside of my planner. Okay, so here I am in the section where I start breaking down my quarterly goals. So I walked you through that 3x3 method, the power of three. And so what I do is I make sure for each quarter that I am only focusing on 3 big goals that I'm working towards, because you don't want too many so that you're overwhelmed, and you don't want too little so that you're not getting enough done that you can and take full advantage of your time. So I usually like to stick to 3. This section in the planner gives you examples just to show you how you can actually do this process for yourself. So for example, goal 1 would be to launch a book on February 28th. Goal 2 would be to increase your followers by 20%. And goal 3 was going to be to complete a draft of book 2. So once I actually have that quarterly goals outlined, I can begin breaking down each goal into projects. So you can see here that each project or each goal has sections for a couple different projects. So if I were to take the goal of launching a book on February 28th and actually break that down into projects, then that could look like running a pre-launch campaign, running a street team campaign, doing a actual launch campaign, and then doing any pre-launch activities. And so then what I do is I like to do this process of the rapid logging. And so I take my goal and I consider all of the projects that I need to do. And I literally just brain dump all of the different tasks and action steps that I would need to do in order to get those projects to happen and to reach that goal of launching that book on February 28th. Right here, I'm keeping a very open mind and I'm not really assigning tasks to projects. But once I have my entire brain dump complete, then I can begin to actually sort those out to what projects they belong to. So now I know what tasks are going to help me achieve the project 1, what tasks are going to help me to achieve project 2, and so on and so forth, as well as what are any miscellaneous tasks or action steps that I'm going to need to take that maybe aren't directly related to one of the projects, but I still need to do to achieve this goal, or that are going to help me achieve that goal. So once I have my top 3 laid out for my quarter, then I move on to my monthly planning. So this is where I plan out my monthly top 3, as well as begin plugging in any of those action steps that I had previously brain dumped and organized into projects now here into my calendar. So when are those action steps going to fall, and what dates are they going to need to be done by? And so I add all of that information here into my month. And then after I do month, so I've got quarterly done, I've got monthly planning done, and then I move into weekly planning, which is where I do again my weekly top 3. So what are my main focuses this week? And then I can also break all of that down per day. I like to use my planner, like I said, more of a journaling when it comes to day-to-day planning. So I'll put anything that happened today that I want to remember, anything I'm keeping track of. Here is a place to track action steps I did, any achievements that I did, any notes I might need to remember, as well as what my word count was for that day. I also have a place here for word count targets for the week and any marketing steps or tasks or things that I might need to remember as well. Now for the digital sides of things. Like I said, I like to do this initially in my planner, and I eventually move it on over into my digital planner, which I have set up inside of Notion. And so let's look on how this kind of breaks down in Notion as well. So here I am back inside of the annual strategy inside of Notion, and you can see that I already showed you that I've got individual focuses for each month laid out already. And so I already kind of have that information here for my quarterly breakdown inside of Notion. I kind of just now need to add in important dates and tasks and things like that into my calendar. And so that is where this page shows up. Now, this calendar is actually linked in with my weekly planner template that's over here. When I click into that, it's where I come in to manage my day-to-day tasks and things like that inside of Notion. And so all of the tasks that I have added into my week over here will actually populate onto this master task management calendar here for this month. So you can see Currently, I've just got some important things that I do every Monday. I've got my content batching day in here, as well as my weekly goal right now. What I'm working on is uploading a chapter a week to my Kindle Vella serial. So I've got that in here as a due date as well, so I can keep track of it, know when it's coming up, time for me to upload and schedule something new. So when I have finished doing that process, now I have got my annual strategy all figured out, and I have things broken up by monthly focuses, by weekly focuses, and by daily tasks. Now I am never wondering what it is that I have to focus on. I never have to worry about forgetting something. And since I know that I'm following that power of 3 structure, I know that my schedule isn't stuffed too full. All that's left is coming down to the management of day-to-day tasks. So I do this inside of my planner as well. However, when it comes to actually managing those day-to-day tasks, I have actually found that as much as I love Notion, it actually isn't the best tool for this digitally, mostly because Notion does not have the ability to do recurring tasks, and a lot of what I do in my business relies on recurring tasks because I like to set up repeatable workflows with due dates that can also repeat when needed. For example, I do my CEO date every Monday, and so I want a repeatable task on my schedule every single Monday to remind myself that this is CEO date day and I need to get this done. The same thing goes for my quarterly strategy sessions. I want to have a repeatable task scheduled in there as well. And unfortunately, Notion doesn't have that option. So what I actually use, not only do I use my planner to plan my week out, but when it comes to actually ticking off tasks and things like that, I turn to Asana. You could really use any task management software out there. There are so many different things you can choose from: Asana, Trello, Monday.com. There's so many different ones, but personally what works best for me is Asana. So inside of Asana, what I actually do is I transfer over, once I do all my planning inside of Notion, I start to transfer those actual tasks over into Asana and get them in my schedule and get them on my planner. And then every morning, what I am actually doing is popping on into my planner. I like to use my planner for writing daily notes and tidbits. I almost use my planner as a journal of sorts. And then when it comes to ticking off tasks, I open up my app of Asana, or I open it up on my laptop, and I'm able to see everything laid out, and I'm able to see, okay, this is what I'm doing today, and I can check it off as I go by. Now, the final step to all of this is to actually make sure that I am checking in with my plan frequently. So once you have the plan, it almost does no use if you're not coming back to it and making sure that everything is still aligned, making sure that you are staying up to date throughout it, you're hitting those deadlines, nothing needs to be tweaked or changed. And so I do this through a series of dates with myself that I call the CEO dates, right? So these are dates when I am putting on that CEO hat and I am actually looking at my plans, I am looking at the analytics, and I am making sure that I'm staying on track. I'm looking at if there's anything that doesn't need maybe changing or shifting. Does my focus need to change? Sometimes things come through and your goals completely shift as the year go by. And so that is where the CEO dates really come in handy. And so my CEO date process is broken up through this annual strategy planning, right? That's like CEO date number 1 of the year. And then I have a quarterly CEO date where I do a quarterly review and I do my quarterly planning. And then I have a weekly CEO date. This isn't as much coming in and planning and like looking at the structure of everything. This one, I really just look at, okay, what are my top priorities for the week? Have I got those in my calendar? Have I done any behind the scenes maintenance in my business that I need to do? Is there anything in my weekly schedule that needs rearranging or shifting? And so then I'll make those changes. Okay, so now I have outlined my complete business system from business planning all the way into managing day-to-day tasks. Now I want to take you behind the scenes and show you how I actually manage my business as an author and how I keep track of all of the data, all of the information that I need to actually be able to achieve my goals and stay on top of all of the moving pieces when it comes to authorship. All right, so here I am back inside of my Authorpreneur home base inside of Notion, and you can see that it is currently separated into three main sections. So I have my CEO section, my Create section, and my Market section. And so each of those sections holds different things that I need to pay attention to at different times. We've already had a really good look here at what goes on in the CEO part, where I do my task management, where I have my annual strategy and weekly planner. I've got my business plan tucked away in here, as well as my brand boards, as well as my content calendar. And again, this master task management is linked to all of these. So anytime that I add a task in any of these that need to have a due date that I want to see here populate on this calendar, it will show up here as well. I also have a section here for important resources and, for instance, Instagram hashtag research that I've done. Got my quick and easy daily routine here, as well as anything that, if anything was actually due today. So you can see that today is actually September 29th. If something was due today, that would show up right here under daily to do. But since I don't have anything with the due date today, that's actually not showing up right here. And then I also have some quick links to some of the projects that I'm working on. Now, I'm not going to click on them from here because I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second, but know that when I click here, it takes me to the same place of accessing my book information as it would if I were to click right here in my Create tab and go into my projects here. So I've got a couple of categories here. Here is where I would track my daily word count when I come in here and do writing sprints. All of that shows up here in my word count tracker. But let's go ahead and look at what I call my project manager. So when I am actually creating my books, almost my entire book development process is actually done inside of Notion. So I have all of my checklists and workflows for making my books and creating my projects. I've got my launch plans tucked in here as well into something that looks like this. So this is actually for my serial that I'm working on right now that is publishing to Kindle Vella called Hollowborn. And you can see how it's got all these different sections with important information about this project. So right here is projects. If this was a series I was working on, this would actually be called books instead of seasons. But since I am working on a serial, I have mine separated into seasons versus individual novels in a series. So you can see I've got season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And inside each of those, I've got information related directly to that. And we'll take a look at that in a second. But when I scroll down, I also have my what I call my project wiki. So this includes all of the world building information that I need access to, my series development, my characters, chapter outlines, any locations that commonly come up in my books. I have different magical species going on in the series, so I have a section where I have information for each species that I can refer back to on frequently whenever I need to, a section for magical artifacts as well. So, for instance, if I were to open up series development, again, it opens up different seasons, and I can open up that season and see all of the episodes that I have planned for that season, as well as what is the inciting incident, what's happening in it, and so on and so forth. This is how I plan and plot my projects here inside of Notion. But let's go back to this part, and I want to show you what it looks like inside of one of these projects. So remember that if this is a series I was working on, this would actually be book 1, right? But since I'm doing a serial, I have it listed here as season 1. And so when I open it up, you can actually see that it has all of the workflow that I do when it comes to creating this. So I have some quick links. I have my entire planning process outlined here. So when I am prepping a project, I've got it here when it is in the planning phase, and everything that I need to do to plan and get it all laid out is here. I've got my brainstorming, and I have a link straight to the world building information. I can click a link here to move right on into my characters. And then I can open them up and learn more information about them as well, what episodes they show up in, what species they are, and do they have any artifacts that are related to them. I've got my, all of my appearance and basic details and family and all of that basic character development stuff that you want to keep track of, all right here inside of Notion. And so that is what is going to be found here in the pre-writing phase when I'm planning all of that. I've got my drafting and production and publishing set up. This is actually more for when I'm planning a novel. I haven't completely customized this to my workflow as a serial because while it's mostly the same, there are a little bit of different processes going on here that I really need to come back and now I'm looking at it, update it for this process. But I'll get to that in time. So that is how I manage my books here inside of Notion. This is just a peek into how I'm managing the production of my serial and managing all of the data and the characters and the locations and not missing out on any important information, those kinds of things. All right, so we've looked at the CEO section, we've taken a look at what's here in the create section, and then I've got a market section here, which is where if I am taking part in any promos, I've got them all listed out here by group promos, newsletter swaps, paid promos. I can track basically all of those important dates so that I don't forget what's coming up and I don't forget to do the swap and I don't forget any of that important things on my side that I need to do, as well as who I'm swapping with or information on the promo that I'm participating in, those kinds of things. And then when I go to launch a book, I have a template here of important numbers that I like to keep track of. So how many pre-orders did I get? What were sales in that first month? What were, if I was doing it in KU, what were the KU reads for the first month? If I launched a serial episode or something like that and I wanted to track episodes, I could add that in there as well. And I could say, well, how many reads that I initially get, those kinds of things are what's found inside of this one. And so that is how I manage basically my entire author business here inside of Notion. I know this does seem like a lot of work to get set up, but what if I told you that I have a shortcut for you? I have already done this all, so would you like to just swipe what I already have? You can actually swipe my entire template for managing your author business inside of Notion in my product, the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base. When you have the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base, you're going to get access to all of those pieces that I just showed you to help manage the business side of your author business, as well as the book management side of your author business, marketing, content creation, the whole shebang. In fact, let me go ahead and show you what it actually looks like once you're inside of the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base. Okay, so here we are inside of the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base product. You can see all of the modules laid out here on the side. The first place that you would want to go to once you get inside would be Ready to Get Started module, where I give you an introduction and I kind of walk you through how it's going to work. I give you a basic walkthrough and show you how to actually copy the templates over into your own Notion account. I've got a quick little GIF here that will show you exactly how to do it. And then you can jump into the other awesome goodness that is inside, like actually grabbing your templates. So if we go here to Digital Authorpreneur Home Base, you're actually going to be able in one quick grab, get every single template included in the Authorpreneur Home Base. So you're going to be able to get all of those CEO templates here in the CEO dashboard, including that calendar and the annual strategy and that business plan template, brand board. All of those things are going to be there. All of the create templates, including that project control room and the daily word count, as well as all of the market templates, including that promo tracker and book launch tracker. And in one single click, you are going to get this entire system into your Notion account so that you can begin to customize it for yourself and to your own workflows and getting it all set up in a way that feels best for you. And then if you did not want to grab the entire thing and say you just wanted to grab individual pieces of it for some reason to build your own customized Authorpreneur Home Base set up in the way that you like, then I actually have the different pieces of it here individually that you can grab as well. So here you can get the weekly planner section, here you can get the content calendar area, and here you can get just the project control room, which is that section in the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base I showed you, where you manage all of your book projects. I showed you inside of my serial one, and you could create one for each of your series, or you can create one for individual books, however you like. I walk you through the entire process in the tutorial videos that are included inside of this. So you can see here, you'll have a tutorial here on how to make the most out of this template, how to get it into your account, how to customize it, everything you really need to know in order to best utilize these templates for yourself. And then I also actually have some really fun bonuses. So if you look down here, I have a questions library that answers frequently asked questions. But here in the Build a Book Wiki with me, this is actually a workshop that was highly requested from the people who purchased the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base, because I do have that section inside of the project control room where I showed you in my serial one, where I have that section for a book wiki to keep track of character information, location information, all of those kinds of things. And if you wanted to know how to do that for yourself, how to actually build out a project wiki inside of Notion, I walk you through that in this Build a Book Wiki with Me workshop. So you can see it's a full hour and 36-minute long, showing you how to use all of Notion's amazing features to create an interlinked wiki with all of the information for tracking your books in one single place in that project control room. So that's what you'll find here. We also have a checklist that you can follow, that you can grab right here, the Notion document that outlines the entire process for you. But that was really highly requested among the students who already grabbed the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base. And so I went ahead and added that as a bonus for you as well. Go to thrivingscribes.com/digital authorpreneur home base in order to get this entire system that I've created for you for only $47 for a limited time. This is the system that allows me to organize my entire author business from big picture things down to the tiniest detail of my books. So if you're ready to get your author business organized, start creating plans that you can actually implement, and keep track of everything that you need to in order to hit those goals and achieve those plans, then head to the link in the description and grab your copy of the Digital Authorpreneur Home Base. And if you need help learning how to create a schedule that aligns with your writing goals, then definitely head on to this video right here that you see on the screen, where I walk you through step by step how to make sure your writing goals are achievable for the lifestyle that you are living and the goals that you have for yourself. I'll see you there.